Hi everyone. Tonight we're stepping into the shimmering haze of a desert caravan, where the sun scorches your skin and the horizon trembles with heat. You're trudging alongside weathered merchants, their camels laden with goods, swaying under the weight of strange treasures. The Silk Road stretches before you, a ribbon of dust and danger connecting empires from China to Byzantium. You probably won't survive this. Bandits lurk behind dunes. Water is scarce, and a single misstep could leave you lost in the vastness. But the promise of wealth drives you forward, clutching a commodity more precious than gold, saffron. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Now, turn off the lights. Maybe turn on the fan to some soothing background music. And let's get started tonight. Imagine yourself in the 8th century, standing in a field in Persia, where the air hums with the faint buzz of bees and the earth smells of dust and dew. You're surrounded by crocus flowers, their delicate purple petals trembling in the dawn breeze. Each bloom cradles a secret, 3 crimson stigmas, no longer than your fingernail, that will become saffron, the most expensive spice in the known world. To gather them, you kneel in the dirt, your fingers stained with pollen, plucking each stigma with care. It's backbreaking work, and you know it takes 150,000 flowers to produce a single kilogram of saffron. By the time the sun climbs high, your basket holds only a handful of these fragile threads, yet they're worth more than their weight in gold. This is the world of the saffron veil, a term whispered by merchants to describe the almost mystical allure of this spice as it traveled the Silk Road. Saffron wasn't just a seasoning, it was a currency, a status symbol, a medicine, and a dye that painted the robes of kings. Its journey began in the fields of Persia, in regions like Khorasan, where farmers like you toiled from dawn to dusk. You'd rise before sunrise, your breath visible in the cool morning air, and work until your hands ached. The crocus blooms only for a few weeks each year, and then every stigma had to be harvested by hand, dried over low fires, and packed with precision to preserve its potency. A single mistake, a damp bundle, or a careless crush could ruin a season's worth of labor. You'd watch as your village's saffron was weighed and bartered, often traded for silk from China or glass from Byzantium. Merchants, their faces creased from years of desert travel, would arrive with camels groaning under heavy loads. They spoke in a mix of Persian, Arabic, and halting Greek, haggling over prices that could feed a family for a year. But the journey was perilous. The Silk Road wasn't a single path, but a network of routes stretching thousands of miles, from Chang'an in China to Constantinople. You'd hear tales of bandits who slit throats for a single pouch of saffron, of sandstorms that buried entire caravans, and of rivers that swelled without warning, sweeping away goods and lives. As a farmer, you rarely saw the wealth saffron brought. Your hands, stained red from the stigmas, told a story of survival. You lived in a mud brick house, your meals simple: barley bread, lentils, and perhaps a rare taste of the spice you harvested. Yet your work connected you to distant courts. In Byzantium, emperors draped themselves in saffron-dyed robes, the vibrant yellow proclaiming their divine right to rule. In China, Tang Dynasty scholars mixed saffron into inks, believing it sharpened the mind. Even in the Abbasid Caliphate, physicians prescribed it for ailments from melancholy to fever, though few could afford it. The trade wasn't just about wealth, it was about power. Saffron's rarity made it a tool of diplomacy. Rulers sent it as gifts to secure alliances or flaunt their wealth. In 797, Harun al-Rashid, the famed caliph of Baghdad, sent a chest of saffron to Charlemagne, a gesture that spoke of both friendship and dominance. You'd hear these stories from passing traders, marveling at how the threads you plucked ended up in the hands of kings. But you also knew the cost. Your village lost men to the road fathers and brothers who joined caravans and never returned. The Silk Road was a lifeline, but it was also a graveyard. Let's pause in a bustling market in Samarkand, where you're a merchant now, standing in the shadow of a domed bazaar. It's 850 CE, and the air is thick with the scents of cumin, leather, and your precious saffron. You've just arrived after months on the road, your camels half dead from thirst. The saffron in your pouches is worth a fortune, but you're wary. Thieves eye your goods, and rival merchants spread rumors that your saffron is diluted with marigold petals. You've learned to survive by wit checking weights, sniffing for authenticity, and sleeping with a dagger under your cloak. The market is a cacophony of languages: Sogdian, Persian, even the clipped tones of a Viking trader far from home. Everyone wants saffron, but few understand the labor behind it. You barter carefully, knowing saffron's value fluctuates with supply. A bad harvest in Persia could double your profits, but a flooded road could strand you for months. You've seen men ruined by a single lost shipment, their families reduced to begging, yet the risk is worth it. A successful trade could buy you land, a title, or a bride from a wealthy family. You dream of a shop in Baghdad, where you'd sell directly to the caliph's court, but for now, you're here, in Samarkand, counting your saffron threads. Like a miser counts coins, the spice's journey didn't end at the market. From Samarkand, it might travel west to Damascus, then to Venice, where Italian merchants would sell it to European nobles, or it might go east to Chang'an, where it flavored rice dishes for the Tang elite. Each leg of the journey added to its price and its legend. Saffron was said to cure blindness, ease childbirth, even ward off plague. You've heard these claims but remain skeptical. You've seen men die despite their saffron tonics. Still, the stories fuel demand, and you're not one to argue with profit. As you stand in the market, you wonder about the hands that touched this saffron before you. The farmers who harvested it, the packers who dried it, the caravanners who braved the desert, all invisible now, their lives reduced to the crimson threads in your pouch. You feel a strange kinship with them, bound by this fragile commodity. But you also know the courts that buy your saffron care little for those who produced it. They see only the color, the scent, the status. What power did saffron hold over these distant rulers? How did a spice, born from a humble flower, shape the politics and alliances of empires? The answer lies beyond this market, in the halls of palaces and the ledgers of treasuries, waiting to be uncovered. You're standing in the bustling heart of Baghdad. The year is 860 CE, and the air hums with the clamor of a city at the peak of its glory. The Abbasid capital sprawls around you, its markets overflowing with goods from every corner of the Silk Road. You're no longer the farmer toiling in Persian fields, or the weary merchant in Samarkand's bazaar. Now, you're a courtier in the caliph's palace, your robes brushed with the faint scent of saffron, a subtle boast of your status. The spice that began its journey in distant crocus fields has brought you here, to the center of power, where saffron is more than a luxury, it's a language of influence, woven into the fabric of diplomacy and wealth. The halls of the palace gleam with polished marble, and you can hear the murmur of scribes and the clink of gold dinars. But beneath the opulence, there's tension. Saffron, for all its beauty, carries risks that even the mightiest rulers cannot ignore. Let's step back to understand how you arrived here. The saffron in your possession began in the fields of Khorasan, harvested by farmers whose hands bled from the delicate work of plucking stigmas. It passed through the hands of merchants who braved bandits and sandstorms, their camels trudging along the Silk Road's treacherous paths. By the time it reached Samarkand, its value had tripled, and now, in Baghdad, it's worth a fortune. You've seen the ledgers. A single ounce of saffron can buy a horse, a slave, or a plot of land, but its true worth lies in what it represents. In the Abbasid court, saffron is a statement. It's sprinkled into dishes served at banquets, its golden hue signaling the caliph's wealth. It's woven into textiles, dyed into the robes of viziers, and burned as incense to perfume the air during negotiations. You've watched as envoys from Byzantium or the Tang dynasty pause, impressed, when saffron-scented air greets them. The spice's journey to Baghdad was no simple feat. You've heard the stories from traders who linger in the city's taverns, their voices low as they recount the perils of the road. The Silk Road's routes through the mountains of Central Asia were narrow and unforgiving, often blocked by snow or mudslides. Caravans faced not only natural dangers, but human ones, rival tribes, rogue soldiers, and local lords demanding tolls. You recall one tale of a merchant named Ibrahim who lost half his caravan to a raid near Bukhara. His saffron, packed in leather pouches, was scattered across the desert, a fortune lost to the wind. Yet those who survived the journey, like the merchants who supply your court, became legends. Their wealth bought them homes in Baghdad's finest quarters, their names whispered with respect. As a courtier, you see saffron's role in the delicate dance of power. The Caliph, Al-Mutawakkil, uses it strategically. Last month, you watched him gift a silver box filled with saffron to an envoy from Constantinople. The gesture was more than generosity. It was a reminder of Baghdad's dominance in trade. Byzantium, for all its grandeur, relied on the Abbasids for saffron, and the Caliph knew it. You've seen similar exchanges with emissaries from Chang'an, where saffron was prized for its medicinal properties. The Chinese believed it could calm the spirit and cure ailments of the heart, though you privately doubt such claims. You've tasted saffron in rice dishes, its flavor subtle yet unmistakable, but you've also seen it fail to save a dying man in the palace infirmary. Saffron's value came with complications. You've overheard scribes debating the cost of importing it. The spice was prone to spoilage if not stored properly, and counterfeiters often mixed it with cheaper substances like safflower or turmeric. You've learned to spot the difference. True, saffron dissolves slowly in water, releasing a golden hue, while fakes turn the liquid murky. The court employs tasters and inspectors to ensure authenticity, but mistakes are costly. Last year, A vizier was disgraced when he served diluted saffron at a banquet, offending a delegation from Samarkand. You've also heard rumors of merchants hoarding saffron to drive up prices, a practice that angers the caliph but is difficult to control. The spice's scarcity makes it a tool for manipulation, and you've seen how quickly fortunes can shift in its trade. Beyond the palace, saffron touched the lives of ordinary people, though few could afford it. In Baghdad's markets, you've seen apothecaries sell tiny pinches of it to wealthy women who believed it eased childbirth or restored youth. Poorer families might save for months to buy a single thread for a wedding dish, hoping to impress their guests. You've walked past stalls where cooks roasted lamb with saffron, the aroma drawing crowds. But for every person who tasted it, thousands more knew it only as a distant luxury. The farmers who grew it, the caravanners who carried it, they rarely shared in its profits. You've heard their complaints, carried by gossip through the city. The taxes on saffron were crushing, and the middlemen took the largest share. The spice also shaped the city's economy in subtle ways. You've seen the records. Saffron imports funded roads, mosques, and schools. The House of Wisdom, where scholars translate Greek texts into Arabic, owes part of its existence to the wealth of the saffron trade. Yet you wonder about the cost. The laborers who built those roads, the sailors who carried saffron across the Red Sea, they lived precarious lives, their work invisible to the scholars sipping saffron tea. You've met one such sailor, an old man named Yusuf, who lost an arm when his ship wrecked off the Persian Gulf. He told you how he once carried saffron to India, only to see his wages vanish to taxes and debts. His story lingers in your mind, a reminder of the human toll behind the spice's glamour. As you move through the palace, you notice how saffron's presence extends beyond trade. It's in the poetry recited at court, where lovers compare their beloved's cheeks to saffron's glow. It's in the dyes that color the caliph's banners, fluttering over the city. It's even in the rituals of the court's physicians, who burn saffron to ward off illness during outbreaks. You've grown accustomed to its scent, but you're still struck by its contradictions. A spice so delicate, so easily spoiled, holds sway over empires. It's a symbol of wealth, yet it's born from toil. It's a tool of power, yet it's vulnerable to fraud. You pause in the palace gardens, where a fountain bubbles under date palms. A messenger approaches, carrying news of a new caravan arriving from Khorasan. The saffron it brings is said to be of unmatched quality. But there's a problem. The caravan was attacked, and half its goods were lost. The caliph will demand answers, and you'll be expected to advise him. Should he punish the merchants for their failure, or reward them for what they salvaged? The decision could shift the balance of trade, and you feel the weight of it. How did a spice so small come to hold such sway over the fortunes of men and empires? You're seated in the grand audience hall of Baghdad's palace. The year is 860 CE, and the air is heavy with anticipation. The caliph, al-Mutawakkil, sits on his gilded throne, his eyes fixed on the merchants before him. You're a courtier, your mind racing as you clutch a scroll detailing the latest saffron caravan's losses. The surviving merchants, their faces weathered by the desert, stand with bowed heads, their pouches of crimson threads laid out like offerings. The hall is silent, save for the faint rustle of silk robes and the distant call of a muezzin. Saffron, the spice that has shaped your world, now hangs in the balance. Its journey from Persian fields to this moment has been one of toil, risk, and ambition. But today, its fate and yours will be decided. You sense the weight of history in this room, where a single decision could ripple across empires. The caravan's story is grim. You've pieced it together from the merchants' accounts and the reports of scouts. They set out from Khorasan months ago, their camels laden with saffron worth a king's ransom. The route through the mountains was treacherous, with narrow passes and sudden blizzards. Near Bukhara, bandits struck, killing half the guards and scattering the goods. The merchants salvaged what they could, but the loss was staggering. Nearly 2/3 of the saffron was gone, either stolen or ruined by rain. You've inspected the surviving pouches yourself, noting the faint scent and vibrant color that mark true saffron. But the caliph's advisors whisper of punishment, arguing that failure on this scale threatens Baghdad's reputation as the heart of the Silk Road. As you listen to the merchant's pleas, you reflect on Saffron's long journey. It began in the fields of Persia, where farmers like those you once knew toiled under the dawn sun, their fingers stained red from plucking crocus stigmas. Each thread was a testament to their resilience, harvested during a fleeting season and dried with care. From there, it passed to caravanners who braved the Silk Road's dangers, sandstorms, thieves, and rivers that could swallow a camel whole. In Samarkand, merchants like these haggled over its price, their livelihoods tied to its value. Now, in Baghdad, it has reached the pinnacle of its journey, where it adorns the caliph's table and colors the robes of his court. But the cost of this journey is clear in the merchants' weary eyes and the empty spaces where their companions once stood. The caliph's decision is not just about these men. You know Saffron's role in the empire's power. It funds the Abbasid treasury, paying for armies, mosques, and the scholars who fill the house of wisdom with knowledge. A single failed caravan could disrupt this delicate balance. You've seen the ledgers. Saffron imparts account for a significant portion of Baghdad's wealth, alongside silk and spices like cinnamon. If the caliph punishes these merchants harshly, others may hesitate to take the risk, choking the flow of goods. But leniency could embolden carelessness, or worse, signal weakness to rival empires like Byzantium, who eagerly awaited any chance to dominate the trade. You recall a conversation with a Byzantine envoy last year, a sharp-eyed man named Leo. He spoke of Constantinople's hunger for saffron, used not just in food, but in religious rituals, where it was sprinkled on altars to honor saints. He hinted that Byzantium was seeking new routes to bypass Baghdad, perhaps through the Caucasus or the Red Sea. You dismissed his words then, but now they linger. The Silk Road's wealth depends on control, and saffron is its crown jewel. If Baghdad falters, cities like Samarkand or Damascus could rise, or worse, the trade could shift entirely to the Franks or the Tang dynasty. You've heard rumors of Chinese merchants experimenting with saffron cultivation, a threat that could upend the market. The merchant's fate pulls you back to the present. One of them, a man named Hassan, speaks up. His voice is steady, though his hands tremble. He describes how he buried his brother after the bandit attack, yet still led the caravan to Baghdad. Driven by duty, you're struck by his resolve, a mirror of the farmers and caravanners who came before him. Hassan's story reminds you of the human thread running through Saffron's history, ordinary people whose lives were shaped by this fragile commodity. You think of the apothecaries in Baghdad's markets, selling saffron to mothers desperate to ease their children's fevers, or the cooks who saved for months to buy a pinch for a wedding feast. Their stories, though small, are the backbone of this trade. The caliph leans forward, his expression unreadable. You've advised him before, but this moment feels different. You suggest a compromise. Spare the merchants' lives, but impose a fine, to be paid in future shipments. You argue that their survival proves their skill, and their saffron, though diminished, is still pure. The caliph nods, and the tension in the hall eases. The merchants will live, but their debt to the court will bind them to the road for years. You feel a pang of sympathy, knowing the cycle of toil will continue. As the merchants leave, you step into the palace gardens, where the air is cooler and the scent of saffron lingers from a nearby brazier. You reflect on what this spice has meant. It built empires, funded knowledge, and shaped alliances, yet it also broke men like Hassan, whose brother lies buried in the desert. Its legacy is one of paradox, a symbol of wealth born from backbreaking labor, a tool of power that could vanish with a single bad harvest. The Silk Road, you realize, is not just a path, but a web of lives, each connected by commodities like saffron. Today, saffron's echo lingers in our world. It's still harvested by hand, still prized for its rarity. Though modern trade routes have replaced camel caravans, its value shaped medieval economies, paving the way for the global markets we know now. But its true impact lies in the stories of those who carried it. Farmers, merchants, courtiers like you, who faced the uncertainties of their time with resilience. Their lives remind us that history's grand narratives are built on small, often unnoticed acts of survival. You stand by the fountain, its water glinting in the moonlight, and wonder about the next caravan. Will it bring wealth, or will it, too, be lost to the desert's whims? The question fades as the night deepens, leaving only the soft ripple of water and the faint scent of saffron in the air. Picture yourself in the 9th century, standing on the edge of a salt flat in Central Asia, near the city of Dunhuang. The ground beneath your feet is crusted white, sparkling under a relentless sun. You're a laborer, your hands calloused from wielding a wooden spade, digging into the earth to extract slabs of salt. The work is grueling, your back aches, and sweat stings your eyes. But this salt is the lifeblood of your village. It preserves food, flavors meals, and sustains livestock, making it as essential as water in this arid land. A single camel can carry hundreds of pounds of it, and you've seen caravans stretch across the horizon, bound for markets in Chang'an, Samarkand, or even Baghdad. Salt, unlike the delicate saffron of our last tale, is no luxury. It's heavy, coarse, and cheap, yet its trade shaped the Silk Road as much as any spice or silk. You've heard traders call it white gold, not for its price, but for its necessity. Without salt, meat rots, cheese fails, and armies starve. In Dunhuang, you watch as workers like you break the salt into manageable blocks, each one wrapped in burlap and lashed to a camel's back. The process is methodical. Dig, cut, stack, repeat. By day's end, your hands are raw, and the salt has seeped into every crack in your skin, burning like a quiet fire. Your village depends on this trade, You live in a mud brick hut, your meals simple millet porridge, perhaps a scrap of dried mutton preserved with the very salt you harvest. The work is monotonous, but you know its importance. Salt from these flats travels far, carried by merchants who brave the Silk Road's dangers. You've heard their stories. The Taklamakan's dunes swallow men whole, and bandits near the Tarim Basin strike without warning. Yet the demand for salt is insatiable. In Chang'an, Tang Dynasty officials stockpile it for their armies. In Samarkand, it's traded for horses. Even in distant Aksum, across the Red Sea, salt blocks serve as currency, traded like coins. The labor of harvesting salt is only the beginning. You've watched the caravans prepare, their leaders inspecting every rope and saddle. A camel can carry up to 400 pounds, but salt is dense, and overloading risks breaking the animal's back. You've seen camels collapse under the strain, their legs buckling as merchants curse their lost profits. The journey from Dunhuang to the next major market, like Kashgar, takes weeks. You've never traveled that far, but you've met men who have gaunt figures with sun-scorched faces, their voices rough from shouting over desert winds. They speak of oases that vanish like mirages and stars that guide them through moonless nights. As a laborer, you rarely see the wealth salt brings. Your pay is meager, often just enough for bread and a new pair of sandals every few years. The real profits go to the merchants who own the camels and the officials who tax the trade. You've heard of men like Zhang Wei, a Dunhuang merchant who rose from nothing to own a caravan of 50 camels. His wealth came from salt, but so did his scars. His left hand bears the marks of a bandit's blade. Stories like his inspire you, but they also remind you of the risks. The Silk Road is a gamble, and salt, for all its necessity, is a heavy burden to bear. Let's pause in a caravanserai outside Kashgar, where you're now a camel driver, your hands gripping the reins of a beast laden with salt. It's 870 C, and the air smells of dust and dung. The caravanserai is a fortress of stone, offering shelter from the desert's wrath. You've been on the road for weeks, your throat parched and your eyes gritty with sand. The salt blocks, strapped tightly to your camels, are intact, but you've lost 2 animals to exhaustion. The other drivers grumble about low pay and spoiled rations. But you keep moving. The market in Kashgar awaits, where salt will be traded for silk, spices, or even silver from the west. You've learned to survive by necessity. You know which plants signal water, how to read the stars, and when to bribe a local warlord to pass unmolested. The salt trade has taught you resilience, but it's also shown you its limits. You've buried friends in shallow graves, their bodies left to the desert after a raid. You've seen merchants weep over lost loads, their dreams of wealth buried with the salt, yet you press on, driven by the hope of a better life. The caravanserai is alive with voices, Sogdian, Uyghur, Persian, each trader haggling over goods. Salt is the humblest of them, but it's the one they all need. The trade's reach extends beyond your imagination. In Chang'an, salt funds the Tang Emperor's campaigns against rebellious generals. In Baghdad, it preserves fish from the Persian Gulf, feeding the city's poor. You've even heard of Viking traders carrying Central Asian salt to the frozen north, where it's prized for curing cod. Each block you've loaded carries a piece of your labor, your village's survival, into the world. But you wonder, Who truly benefits from this trade? The merchants grow rich, the empires grow strong, but what of the laborers and drivers like you, whose lives are spent in the shadow of the camel's burden? You're standing in the bustling market of Kashgar. The year is 870 CE, and the air thrums with the chaos of commerce. Dust swirls around your sandals as you guide your camels through crowded stalls, their humps sagging under the weight of salt blocks. The market is a labyrinth of voices, merchants shouting in Uyghur, Sogdian, and Persian, their hands gesturing wildly over piles of goods. You're a camel driver, your skin cracked from weeks in the Taklamakan desert, your hands rough from ropes and reins. The salt you've carried from Dunhuang is your ticket to survival, but it's also a chain binding you to this relentless trade. Around you, traders barter for silk, spices, and jade, but your salt plain, heavy, essential draws steady interest. It's not glamorous, but it's the foundation of every meal, every army, every life along the Silk Road. The journey to Kashgar was a test of endurance. You set out from Dunhuang with a caravan of 20 camels, each laden with salt slabs wrapped in burlap. The Taklamakan Desert, known as the Sea of Death, lived up to its name. You navigated dunes that shifted overnight, erasing paths you'd sworn were there. Water was scarce, and you rationed every sip, your lips splitting in the dry air. One night, a sandstorm forced you to huddle beneath your cloak, the camels bellowing in panic as grit stung your face. 2 animals didn't survive, their loads redistributed among the survivors. You buried their carcasses in the sand, a grim reminder of the desert's toll. Yet you pressed on, driven by the promise of payment and the hope of returning home with enough coin to buy a new cloak or a goat for your family. In Kashgar, you see the salt's value come to life. A merchant from Samarkand, his beard streaked with henna, inspects your blocks, crumbling a piece between his fingers to test its purity. He nods, satisfied, and offers a bolt of Chinese silk in exchange enough to clothe your entire village. You've learned to haggle, a skill born from necessity. The merchant wants your entire load, but you hold firm, knowing another buyer waits. A Sogdian trader bound for Baghdad. Salt's price here is modest compared to saffron or pepper, but its demand is constant. Every household needs it. From the nomads of the steppe to the cooks in Tang palaces, you've seen how it's used. Sprinkled on mutton to preserve it for winter, mixed into dough for flatbread, or fed to livestock to keep them strong. The salt trade's mechanics are etched into your mind. Each block you carried weighs about 50 pounds, cut from the flats near Dunhuang, where you once labored. Harvesting was backbreaking, digging into the crusty earth, prying out slabs, and stacking them for drying. The salt flats were a harsh master, their glare blinding you by midday, their edges sharp enough to cut bare feet. You've since traded the spade for the reins, but the memory of that labor lingers in your aching shoulders. Now, as a driver, you face different challenges. You've learned to spot bandits' tracks in the sand, to soothe a camel's sores with oil, and to navigate by the faint outline of mountains on the horizon. Survival depends on these skills, honed through years of trial and error. You've heard stories of the salt trade's reach, tales swapped over fires at the caravanserai. In Chang'an, the Tang capital, salt is a state monopoly, taxed heavily to fund the emperor's wars. You've never seen Chang'an, but you imagine its markets, vast and gleaming, where your salt might end up in a noble's kitchen in the West. You've heard of Aksumite traders in Ethiopia who carve salt into blocks called amole, using them as money to buy frankincense or ivory. Closer to Kashgar, nomads trade salt for wool, their tents filled with the scent of preserved meat. These stories make you feel part of something larger, though your own life remains small, a cycle of caravans, debts, and fleeting rest. The trade isn't without its shadows. You've seen merchants cheat, mixing sand into salt to boost weight, only to be caught and beaten in the market square. You've witnessed the toll on the camels, their knees scarred from kneeling under heavy loads. You've even felt the sting of taxes, as local officials demand a share of your earnings before you can sell. Last month, a fellow driver, a man named Malik, lost his entire load when a river ford turned to mud. Trapping his camels, he returned to Dunhuang penniless, his family forced to sell their home. You've promised yourself you'll avoid his fate, but the desert is unforgiving, and luck is a fickle ally. As you stand in the market, you notice a group of monks, their robes saffron-hued, bartering for salt to preserve vegetables at their monastery. They speak of Buddhist pilgrims traveling the Silk Road, carrying salt to distant shrines. Their presence reminds you of the trade's deeper impact. Salt doesn't just feed bodies, it sustains communities, religions, ways of life. You've seen it in your own village, where salt preserved the mutton that got you through lean winters. You've heard of entire tribes moving to be near salt flats, their lives reshaped by this simple mineral. It's a quiet force, less dazzling than silk or gems, but no less vital. Yet the trade's demands weigh on you. You're tired, your body worn from months on the road. You dream of settling in Kashgar, perhaps opening a stall of your own, but the coin you earn barely covers your debts. The merchants you serve grow richer, their homes filled with carpets and silver, while you sleep on a mat in the caravanserai. You wonder about the salt's final journey, where it goes after Kashgar, who uses it, and what it means to them. Does it reach the tables of kings, or is it ground into the meals of laborers like you? The question nags at you as you unload the last of your salt, the blocks thudding onto the market's stone floor. You glance at the horizon, where another caravan is arriving, its camels laden with goods you can't yet see. The market buzzes with rumors, a new route through the Pamir Mountains, safer but longer, a bandit leader killed near Bukhara, opening the road. These changes could shift the salt trade, for better or worse. You wonder how they'll affect you, a driver caught in the currents of commerce. What does the future hold for this humble commodity, and for the men and beasts who carry its burden across the Silk Road? You're seated by a flickering fire in a Kashgar caravanserai. The year is 870 CE, and the night air is sharp with the chill of the desert. The market's clamor has faded, leaving only the low hum of voices and the occasional snort of a camel. You're a camel driver, your hands still gritty from unloading the last of your salt blocks, your body weary from weeks on the Silk Road. The salt you carried from Dunhuang has been sold, traded for a handful of silver coins and a promise of work on the next caravan. Around you, merchants and drivers swap stories of the road tales of survival, loss, and the quiet power of the mineral that binds you all. The fire's warmth soothes your aching joints, but your mind is restless, turning over the weight of the camel's burden and what it means for your future. The sale in Kashgar was a small victory, You stood in the market as the Sogdian trader, his eyes sharp beneath a felt cap, counted out your share, enough to buy food for a month and repair your sandals. The salt blocks, heavy and unyielding, fetched a steady price, their value rooted in necessity rather than glamour. You watched as they were carted off, some bound for Samarkand, others for Chang'an, where they'd preserve fish or flavor imperial banquets. You felt a flicker of pride, knowing your labor fed distant lives, but it was tempered by exhaustion. The road had taken its toll, one camel lame, another dead, and a friend lost to fever near an oasis. The coins in your pouch feel like a meager reward for such losses. Reflecting on the journey, you see the salt trade's vast web. It began in the flats of Dunhuang, where laborers like you once were dug into the earth, their spades breaking through crusts of white. Each block was a testament to their endurance, cut under a sun that burned away doubt. From there, you carried it across the Taklamakan, navigating dunes and stars, your life tethered to the camel's steady steps. In Kashgar, the salt became currency, bartered for goods that would travel farther still west to Baghdad, where it preserved dates for the caliph's court, or east to China, where it sustained monks copying sutras. You've heard of salt reaching even the steppes, where nomads traded it for furs, or the Red Sea, where Aksumite merchants used it as money. Each block, it seems, carried a piece of your world to another, but the trade's cost is never far from your mind. You've seen its toll on men and beasts, camels, their knees scarred from kneeling under heavy loads, often died before their time. You've tended their sores, whispering to them in the dark, knowing their survival meant your own. The men fared little better. You think of Malik, the driver whose caravan was lost to a river's mud, now begging in Dunhuang's streets. You've buried others, their graves marked only by stones, their names fading with the wind. The Silk Road's promise of wealth is real, but it's unevenly shared. Merchants grow rich, their homes filled with silk and silver, while drivers like you scrape by, your lives spent in service to the salt's journey. In the caravanserai, you overhear a merchant discussing a new threat. The Tang dynasty, desperate for revenue, has tightened its salt monopoly, taxing every block that enters Chang'an. This could raise prices in Kashgar, but it also means heavier levies for drivers like you. You've already felt the sting of taxes, your earnings chipped away by officials who never set foot in the desert. There's talk of a safer route through the Pamir Mountains, but it's longer, and the cold there is as deadly as the Taklamakan's heat. You wonder if the salt trade can sustain itself under such pressures, or if it will shift to other routes, leaving men like you behind. The fire crackles, and you think of your village in Dunhuang. Your family relies on the salt trade, using it to preserve meat for winter, to barter for grain. You've seen how it binds communities, how a single block can mean the difference between hunger and survival. Yet you've also seen its limits. The laborers who dig the salt, the drivers who carry it, they're invisible to the emperors and caliphs who reap its benefits. You recall a monk you met in the market, his robes faded, but his eyes bright, who spoke of salt as a gift from the earth, sustaining life across empires. His words stayed with you, a reminder that even this humble commodity carries a kind of sacred weight. The decision you face now is simple but heavy. Another caravan is forming, bound for Samarkand, and they need drivers. The pay is better, but the route is riskier. cutting through bandit country. You could stay in Kashgar, taking odd jobs, but the city's markets are crowded and work is scarce for a man without camels of his own. The salt trade has been your life, but it's also a chain, tying you to the road's dangers. You weigh the coins in your pouch. Their clink a faint promise of stability, and wonder if one more journey could change your fate. The legacy of salt endures beyond your time. It shaped the Silk Road, funding armies and feeding cities. Its trade routes laying the groundwork for the global markets of today. In modern times, salt remains essential, though machines now mine it, and trucks have replaced camels. But its story, like yours, is one of resilience. Ordinary people laboring in obscurity, whose work sustained empires. The Silk Road was built on their sweat, their losses, their quiet determination to carry on. As the fire dies to embers, you pull your cloak tighter, the desert's chill creeping in. The stars above are bright, the same ones that guided you through the Taklamakan. You think of the next caravan, its camels waiting to bear their burden. Will you join them, or will you seek a different path, one less tied to the weight of salt? The question lingers, soft as the desert wind, as the night folds around you. Imagine yourself in the 10th century, standing in a bustling market in Calicut, on India's Malabar coast. The year is 920 CE, and the air hums with the cries of merchants and the clink of copper coins. You're surrounded by sacks of pepper, stacks of sandalwood, and cages of squawking parrots, their voices mimicking human speech in snatches of Tamil and Sanskrit. You're a bird trader, one of many who capture these creatures from the nearby Western Ghats, where parrots roost in towering teak trees. Your latest catch, a rose-ringed parakeet, perches in its cage, tilting its head as it mimics your greeting. Salam, friend. Its intelligence is startling, and you know it will fetch a high price in the markets of Baghdad or Changan. Parrots were an exotic commodity on the Silk Road, prized not for food or utility, but for their beauty and ability to speak. In a world where long-distance travel was rare, these birds were a marvel, carrying the mystique of distant jungles to the courts of empires. You've spent weeks preparing for this trade. Capturing a parrot is no simple task. You trekked into the forest with local trappers, their nets spread beneath trees at dawn. The birds, wary and quick, required patience, hours of waiting in silence, your legs cramped, your skin bitten by mosquitoes. When a parrot finally tangled in the net, its wings thrashing, you felt a surge of triumph. But the work didn't end there. You had to train it, teaching it words to charm buyers and keep it alive through the long journey ahead. Your life as a bird trader is one of constant motion. You live in a small house in Calicut, its walls woven from palm fronds. Your meals, rice and fish curry, spiced with the pepper you sometimes trade. But most of your days are spent on the move, guiding caged parrots along coastal paths to ports like Hormuz, where ships carry them across the Arabian Sea. The Silk Road's maritime routes are as vital as its overland paths, and you've learned to navigate both. You've sailed with Arab dhows, their sails catching the monsoon winds, and trudged alongside camel caravans when the sea routes end. Each journey is a gamble. Storms can sink ships, and parrots, delicate despite their bravado, often die from heat or hunger. The parrot's value lies in their rarity. In Calicut, a single bird might cost a few silver coins, but by the time it reaches Baghdad, it's worth 10 times that. You've heard stories of parrots in the Abbasid court, taught to recite poetry or greet guests. Their cages hung in gardens where fountains bubble. In Chang'an, Tang emperors keep them as pets, believing their chatter brings good fortune. Even in Constantinople, Byzantine nobles display them as symbols of wealth, their feathers brighter than any jewel. You've trained your parrot to say Allahu Akbar for Muslim buyers and long live the emperor for the Chinese, a trick that doubles its price. But the trade is perilous. You've lost birds to disease, their feathers dulling as they waste away in cramped cages. You've faced bandits on the road to Hormuz, their knives gleaming as they demanded your goods. One night, you woke to find a thief prying open your cages, and only a quick shout saved your birds. You've learned to sleep lightly, your hand on a dagger, and to check the bamboo bars daily for cracks. Feeding the parrots is another challenge. Fresh fruit is scarce on the road, and you've bartered your own meals for mangoes to keep them alive. Each bird is a fragile investment, its survival tied to your own. Let's pause in the port of Hormuz, where you're now loading your parrot onto a ship bound for Basra. The docks are chaotic, piled with amphorae of wine and bales of cotton. Your cage is secured below deck, where the air is stifling but safe from seabirds that might startle your parrot. You've paid a hefty fee to the ship's captain, a grizzled Arab who promises a swift journey. As you watch the shore recede, you feel the weight of the unknown. The Arabian Sea is unpredictable, and you've heard of ships lost to storms or pirates. Your parrot, still chattering, is your only companion, its voice a reminder of the forests you left behind. The trade's broader impact is clear in Hormuz. The port thrives on exotic goods, parrots, ivory, spices, each fueling the Silk Road's economy. You've met traders from as far as Sri Lanka and Ethiopia, their ships carrying goods that will end up in palaces or temples. Your parrots, though small, are part of this vast network, their journey a thread in the tapestry of empires. But you wonder about their fate. Will your bird sing for a caliph, or languish in a forgotten cage? And what does its journey say about the men like you, who risk everything to carry such fragile wonders across the world? You're swaying on the deck of a dhow slicing through the Arabian Sea. The year is 920 CE, and the horizon shimmers with the promise of Basra's port. The salt-laced wind stings your face, and your hands grip the bamboo cage where your parrot, a rose-ringed parakeet, chatters nervously. Its green feathers catch the sunlight, a vivid contrast to the gray sea around you. You're a bird trader, far from the jungles of Calicut, your life now tethered to this fragile creature and the Silk Road's maritime routes. The ship creaks beneath you, its crew shouting in Arabic and Persian as they adjust the sails. You've risked everything to bring this parrot to the markets of Baghdad, where its mimicry could earn you a small fortune or leave you penniless if it perishes. The sea is as treacherous as the desert, and you feel its weight with every wave. The journey from Hormuz was a gamble from the start. You boarded this ship with 3 parrots, but only one remains. The others succumbed to the stifling heat below deck, their bodies limp despite your efforts to feed them mango scraps and shield them from the sun. You've learned to ration water for yourself and your bird, dipping a cloth in your precious supply to cool its cage. The crew, hardened sailors with sunburned faces, mock your care for the parrot, but you've seen their eyes linger on its vibrant plumage. They know its value enough to buy a new sail or bribe a port official. You've paid the captain well, a handful of silver coins from your Calicut earnings, but you're still wary. Pirates haunt these waters, and a single storm could send your hopes to the seabed. Your parrot is more than cargo. It's a marvel back in Calicut. You spent weeks training it, coaxing it to mimic phrases like, "Praise the Caliph" or "Fortune smiles." Its voice, sharp and eerily human, draws stares from the crew, who whisper that it's touched by spirits. You smile at their superstitions, but know the truth. Its speech is a product of patience, not magic. You'd sit by your hut at dusk, repeating words until the bird echoed them, its head cocked as if weighing their meaning. That training, combined with its vivid feathers, makes it a prize for the elite Abbasid viziers, Tang scholars, or Byzantine nobles who see it as a living jewel. You've heard tales of parrots reciting poetry in Baghdad's palaces, their cages hung beside rose gardens, a symbol of wealth and wonder. The sea route is a vital artery of the Silk Road, and you've seen its pulse in Hormuz's docks, where ships unload ivory, frankincense, and slaves alongside your parrots. The maritime trade is faster than overland caravans, but no less dangerous. You've sailed past jagged reefs that tear hulls apart and weathered squalls that nearly capsized the dhow. One night, you woke to shouts as the crew spotted a pirate skiff, its oars slicing silently through the dark. Only a favorable wind saved you, the dhow outrunning the threat. You've learned to sleep with your dagger close, the parrot's cage tucked beside you, its chatter a strange comfort in the night. In Basra, you'll join an overland caravan to Baghdad, a journey of several days through date palm groves and bandit-haunted trails. You've heard of the city's splendor, its domed mosques, its markets overflowing with goods from China to Spain. Your parrot could fetch a price there to change your life, enough to buy a small shop in Calicut or a plot of land, but the risks are ever present. You've met traders who lost their birds to disease or theft, their dreams shattered in a moment. One man, a Tamil merchant you met in Hormuz, wept as he recounted a parrot that died just miles from Baghdad, its cage crushed under a falling load. His story haunts you, a reminder of how fragile your hopes are. The trade's broader impact is clear as you sail. Parrots, though a small part of the Silk Road's commerce, carry the allure of the exotic. They connect distant worlds, Indian jungles to Persian courts, Chinese palaces to Mediterranean villas. You've heard of parrots reaching as far as Rome, where they amused senators, or Chang'an, where they adorned imperial gardens. Their journey fuels the Silk Road's economy, alongside spices and silk, creating wealth for port cities like Basra and Hormuz, but it also creates dependency. You've seen sailors and traders, men like you, bound to this trade, their lives shaped by the whims of wind and market. You think of the trappers back in Calicut, their nets spread under teak trees, risking snake bites and falls to catch these birds. Their labor, like yours, is invisible to the nobles who buy your parrots. You've met one such trapper, a man named Ravi, who lost an eye to a branch while chasing a parakeet. He still works the forests, his family dependent on the few coins he earns. You feel a kinship with him, both of you caught in the Silk Road's vast machinery, your lives tied to creatures that weigh less than a loaf of bread. As the dhow nears Basra, You check your parrot's cage, its bars still sturdy, its occupant preening itself with a squawk. The port's minarets are visible now, rising above the marshes. You'll soon face new challenges, haggling with caravan leaders, guarding against thieves, keeping your bird alive in the desert heat. You've heard rumors of a new tax on exotic goods in Baghdad, imposed by the caliph to fund a war. It could cut into your profits, forcing you to sell at a lower price or risk returning home empty-handed. You wonder how this will affect the parrot trade and whether your journey will end in triumph or loss. The sea stretches behind you, its waves carrying the memory of your voyage. You think of the parrots that didn't make it, their cages now empty, and the men who risked their lives for this trade. What awaits your parrot in Baghdad's courts, and what will its journey mean for you? A trader carrying a piece of the jungle to the heart of an empire. You're standing in the grand market of Baghdad. The year is 920 CE, and the air pulses with the din of commerce merchants shouting, coins clinking, and the faint squawk of your parrot rising above it all. You're a bird trader, your tunic dusty from the overland trek from Basra, your bamboo cage clutched tightly as you navigate the crowded stalls. The parrot, a rose-ringed parakeet with feathers like a monsoon forest, chatters, praise the caliph to passers-by, drawing curious glances. You've reached the heart of the Abbasidan Empire, where this bird could earn you enough silver to change your life or leave you stranded if the market turns. The journey from Calicut's jungles to this moment has been a gauntlet of sea and sand. And now, as you stand before a wealthy vizier's agent, the weight of your gamble settles over you like dust. The final leg from Basra was grueling. You joined a caravan of 30 camels, their loads heavy with cotton and indigo, your parrot's cage strapped carefully to avoid jolts. The road wound through palm groves and dry riverbeds, where bandits and heat were constant threats. You kept your bird shaded with a cloth, feeding it dates you bartered for at oases. Its survival your only focus. One night, a thief tried to pry open the cage, his knife glinting in the moonlight. You chased him off with a shout, your heart pounding, knowing a single loss could ruin you. The caravan's leader, a grizzled Persian named Farid, took a liking to your parrot, laughing when it mimicked his curses. He offered advice. Sell to the caliph's court, where parrots are prized. But beware the new tax on exotic goods, which could cut your profits in half. Baghdad's market is a world unto itself. You're surrounded by piles of saffron, silk bolts from China, and glass from Damascus. Each stall a testament to the Silk Road's reach. Your parrot stands out, its green and red plumage a splash of color amid the earth tones. You've trained it well, and its phrases, Allahu Akbar, fortune smiles draw a crowd. A merchant from Samarkand offers a bag of dinars, but you hold out for a better deal. You've heard of parrots fetching prices equal to a horse in the caliph's palace, where they're kept in gilded cages, taught to recite poetry or greet foreign envoys. Your bird, with its clear voice and bright feathers, could be destined for such grandeur, but you're wary. The market is fickle, and a rival trader nearby displays a gray African parrot, its speech even sharper than yours. The journey's toll lingers in your bones. You think of the two parrots lost at sea, their cages now empty, and the trappers in Calicut who risked their lives in the jungle to catch them. You recall Ravi, the one-eyed trapper, whose family depends on this trade as much as yours does. Your own family, back in Calicut, waits for the coins you'll send enough, you hope, to buy a fishing boat or a patch of land. But the Silk Road's profits are uneven. The sailors who carried you across the Arabian Sea, the caravanners who guarded your cage, they see little of the wealth that flows to merchants and nobles. You felt the sting of taxes, too, as Basra's officials demanded a share of your goods before you could proceed. The new tax in Baghdad, rumored to fund a campaign against rebels, looms over you now. As you haggle, you reflect on the Parrot's role in this vast trade. It's a small but vivid thread in the Silk Road's tapestry, carrying the mystique of India's jungles to distant courts. You've heard of parrots in Chang'an, where Tang scholars teach them Buddhist chants, or in Constantinople, where they amuse Byzantine emperors. Their chatter bridges worlds, a living symbol of the exotic, but their journey is fragile. You've seen birds die from cold nights or spoiled fruit, their cages tossed aside like refuse. You've tended your parrot with care, whispering to it at night, its voice a reminder of home. Its survival is your triumph, but also your burden, tying you to a trade that demands everything. The vizier's agent, a man with coal-lined eyes and a silk turban, approaches. He inspects your parrot, smiling as it squawks a greeting. He offers a price 20 dinars, enough to secure your family's future, but insists you deliver it to the palace tomorrow. After the tax is paid, you hesitate. The tax could take half your earnings, and a delay risks the bird's health. You've heard of traders who waited too long, their parrots dying before the sale. But refusing the agent could bar you from the court's favor, a loss you can't afford. You nod, accepting the deal, and feel the weight of the decision settle in your chest. As the market quiets, you sit by your cage, the parrot preening itself under the fading light. You think of its journey from a jungle roost to a palace garden, its voice echoing in halls you'll never see. The Silk Road made this possible, its routes carrying not just goods, but stories, lives, dreams. Your parrot is a small piece of that, a fleeting wonder in a world of empires. Its trade built ports like Hormuz, funded mosques in Baghdad, and connected Calicut to Chang'an. But it also bound men like you to its risks, your lives shaped by creatures as fragile as they are prized. Today, parrots still captivate. Though their trade is tamed by modern laws and planes, the Silk Road's legacy lives in global markets, where exotic goods still carry cultural weight. But the real story is in the people trappers, sailors, traders like you whose resilience drove the trade. Their labor, often forgotten, wove the threads of history, one bird at a time. You look at your parrot, its eyes bright in the dusk, and wonder what its new home will be like. Will it sing for a caliph, or fade in a forgotten cage? The question lingers as you wrap the cage in cloth, preparing for the palace. The night's soft and heavy around you. Picture yourself in the 10th century, standing on the shores of the Baltic Sea, near the trading post of Trousseau in what is now northern Poland. It's 950 CE, and the dawn is gray, the sky heavy with clouds. You're a local Prussian, one of the amber gatherers who comb the beaches after storms, your eyes trained to spot the honey-colored stones amid seaweed and driftwood. Amber, the hardened resin of ancient pines, is no ordinary find. It's lightweight, warm to the touch, and sometimes holds insects or leaves frozen within. like secrets from a forgotten age. You've seen traders pay dearly for it, their hands trembling as they hold a piece to the light, marveling at its clarity. Your work is both simple and perilous. You rise before dawn, when the tide is low, and walk the shore with a sack slung over your shoulder. The Baltic is unforgiving. Its waves can pull you under, and winter storms leave the sand littered with dangers like jagged rocks or broken timbers. You've learned to move quickly, scanning for amber's telltale glow before rival gatherers claim it. Some pieces are small, no bigger than a pebble. Others are fist-sized, rare and valuable enough to feed your family for a year. You polish them with a cloth, rubbing until they shine, and store them in a leather pouch tied tightly to your belt. Thieves are common, and you've seen men beaten for a single lump of amber. Amber's value lies in its mystery. To you, it's a gift from the sea, but to the traders who arrive in Trousseau, it's a commodity that rivals silk or saffron. They call it the gold of the north, though you know it's worth more than gold in the markets of Constantinople or Baghdad. You've heard their stories. Amber is carved into beads for Byzantine nobles, ground into powder for Arab physicians, or set into reliquaries for Christian monks who believe it holds divine power. In Chang'an, Tang scholars use it in incense, claiming its scent purifies the soul. You don't understand these beliefs, but you know the weight of a good haul enough to trade for iron tools, wool cloth, or a sack of barley to see your village through winter. Your life is tied to the rhythms of the sea and the seasons. You live in a wooden hut, its roof thatched with reeds. Your meals: fish stew or rye bread baked over a fire. The amber trade sustains your community, a cluster of families who fish, farm, and gather resin along the coast. But it's a precarious existence. Storms can wipe out a recommendation. The Baltic Sea is a stormy and unpredictable body of water, so be prepared for sudden changes in the weather. You've lost amber to the waves, and last winter, a friend drowned chasing a large piece caught in the surf. The sea gives, but it also takes. The Amber Road, as traders call the route from the Baltic to the Silk Road's southern markets, is a lifeline for your people. You've met Viking traders with braided beards, their ships heavy with furs, and Sogdian merchants from distant Samarkand, their camels laden with spices. They come to Trousseau, a muddy port where languages mingle: Old Norse, Slavic, and others you can't name. You've learned a few words of their tongues, enough to barter for your amber. A clear, insect-free piece might fetch a silver coin. One with a trapped spider or leaf could buy a cow. You've seen a trader weep over a large amber bead, claiming it would make him rich in Venice. But the trade is fierce. You've fought off rivals, your fists bruised from defending your finds. Some gatherers work for powerful lords who claim half their haul, leaving them with little. You're free, but that means no protection. Every piece you find is yours, but so is every risk. You've heard of gatherers killed for their sacks, their bodies left on the beach. You carry a short blade, its handle worn from use, and sleep with your pouch under your head. Let's pause in Trousseau's market, where you're now a trader, your sack of amber slung across your back. The air smells of fish and tar, and the crowd buzzes with deals. You've brought a dozen pieces, including a rare one with a tiny fly inside, its wings spread as if frozen in flight. A Byzantine merchant, his robe embroidered with gold, eyes it greedily. He offers a price, but you hesitate, knowing a better deal might come. The amber road stretches south, and you dream of following it to Constantinople, where amber is said to adorn emperors' crowns. But what dangers await on that long road? And what secrets does this strange resin hold for those who carry it? You're trudging along a muddy track in the forests of Kiev and Rus. The year is 950 CE, and the air is thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. Your sack of amber, gathered from the Baltic shores, hangs heavy across your back, its contents clinking softly with each step. You're a trader now, far from Trousseau's windswept beaches. Having joined a caravan bound for Constantinople, the Amber Road, a northern spur of the Silk Road, stretches ahead through rivers and plains, promising wealth but fraught with peril. Your prize, a lump of amber with a fly trapped inside, could fetch a fortune in the Byzantine capital. But the journey tests your resolve. Bandits lurk in the shadows, and the cold bites through your wool cloak. You feel the weight of the amber, not just in your sack, but in the choices that lie ahead. The journey from Trousseau was a leap into the unknown. You left the Baltic coast with a group of Slavic and Viking traders, their boats loaded with furs, honey, and your precious amber. The first leg followed the Vistula River, where you rode until your shoulders burned, the current pulling you south. At trading posts like Novgorod, you swapped stories with merchants who spoke of Constantinople's golden domes and Baghdad's bustling markets. Your amber, polished to a warm glow, drew gasps, especially the piece with the fly, its tiny wings a marvel frozen in time. You've guarded it fiercely, sleeping with it tucked inside your tunic, your hand resting on your blade. You've heard of traders robbed on these routes, their goods scattered in the mud, their lives ended by a quick knife. Amber's allure is its mystery. You've seen men hold it to the light, whispering of its origins, resin from ancient pines, hardened over millennia, sometimes trapping creatures or leaves like relics of a lost world. In Trousseau, you sold smaller pieces for silver, but this journey is for the rare ones, destined for the elite. You've learned their uses. Byzantine jewelers carve amber into beads for rosaries, believing it holds divine favor. Arab physicians grind it into balms for aching joints. Tang scholars burn it as incense, its smoke curling through their halls. You don't fully grasp these beliefs, but you know amber's value rises with every mile. What was worth a coin in Trousseau could buy a horse in Constantinople or nothing. If you misjudge the market, the road is as treacherous as the Baltic Sea. You've crossed rivers swollen with rain, your boots sinking into mire, and camped in forests where wolves howled at night. One evening, near the Dnieper River, bandits attacked, their arrows whistling past. You hid your amber in a hollow log, your heart pounding as you crouched in the dark. The caravan lost 2 men, their blood staining the earth, but your sack was safe. You've learned to travel light, carrying only dried fish and a water skin, your amber the heaviest burden. The Vikings in your group, their axes gleaming, offer some protection, but their loyalty is to profit, not you. You've paid them in amber scraps to ensure their swords stay near. Your life as a trader is a far cry from the gatherer you once were. Back in your Prussian village, you sifted sand for amber, your hands numb from the cold sea. Now you navigate a world of languages: Slavic, Norse, Greek, each deal a test of wit. You've learned to spot fakes, amber mixed with resin or glass, and to haggle without showing fear. In Novgorod, a merchant tried to cheat you, offering copper for a piece worth silver. You walked away, your pride intact, but the memory stings. Every trade is a risk, and in every step south takes you farther from home, where your family waits for the coins you'll send to buy grain or repair their hut. The Amber Road's reach is vast, a northern thread in the Silk Road's web. You've met traders from Samarkand, their camels carrying silk, who speak of amber reaching Baghdad's mosques or Chang'an's palaces. In Constantinople, you've heard, amber adorns the Hagia Sophia, its glow said to please God. These stories make your sack feel heavier, each piece a link to empires you'll never see. But the trade's cost is clear. You think of the gatherers back home, their lives bound to the sea's whims, some drowning for a single lump. You've met porters, their backs bent from carrying loads, and boatmen who lost hands to frostbite. Their labor, like yours, fuels the trade, but the wealth flows to merchants and lords. Let's pause in a riverside camp near Kiev, where the caravan rests before the final push to Constantinople. The Dnieper flows nearby, its waters glinting under a crescent moon. You check your amber, the fly piece still safe, its wings a delicate shadow. A Greek trader, bound for the Byzantine capital, joins the fire, his tales of amber-laden ships filling your mind with dreams. He speaks of taxes at Constantinople's gates, where officials weigh every good. You've saved enough silver to pay, but the cost could cut your profits, forcing you to sell at a loss or wait for a better buyer. The Greek hints at a new market in Venice, where amber is gaining favor. You wonder if you should risk the longer journey or settle for Constantinople's promise. The fire crackles, and you feel the Amber Road's pull. It's carried you from a Baltic beach to this moment, each step a gamble on a stone that holds time itself. But what awaits in Constantinople? Will your amber shine in a palace, or will the city's gates demand a price you can't pay? You're standing in the bustling hippodrome of Constantinople. The year is 950 CE, and the city's heartbeat thrums around you, vendors hawking bread, chariots rattling in the distance, and the scent of myrrh drifting from a nearby church. You're a trader, your sack of amber lighter now, its contents reduced to a single, precious piece, a lump with a fly trapped inside, its wings frozen in golden resin. You've journeyed from the Baltic's stormy shores, through rivers and forests, to reach this capital of the Byzantine Empire. The Amber Road has led you here, to a market where your treasure could secure your future or vanish in a bad deal. Your hands, calloused from months of travel, clutch the amber as you face a jeweler's apprentice, his eyes gleaming with interest. The weight of your journey and the choices ahead presses down like the city's ancient walls. The final leg from Kiev was a trial. You traveled by boat down the Dnieper, then overland through Thrace, your amber hidden in a false-bottomed sack to deter thieves. The roads were muddy, churned by ox carts, and you slept little, wary of bandits who preyed on stragglers. Your caravan lost a porter to fever, his body buried hastily by a stream. A reminder of the Silk Road's toll, you kept your amber close, checking it nightly, its warm glow a faint comfort. In Constantinople's port, officials inspected your goods, their scales unforgiving. The tax on amber was steep, 3 silver coins, nearly half your savings, but you paid, knowing the city's markets could make it worthwhile. The apprentice before you now, sent by a master jeweler, offers a price that could buy a small farm in your village, but he warns of a rival buyer, a Venetian, circling nearby. Your journey began on a Baltic beach, where you sifted sand for amber, its honeyed light a gift from the sea. Each piece was a gamble, claimed under storm clouds or stolen by rivals. From Trousseau, you carried it south, bartering smaller pieces to survive. Your eyes always on the fly piece, a rarity that could change your life. Along the amber road, you saw its power. In Novgorod, a Slavic lord traded furs for a single bead. In Kiev, a monk clutched an amber cross, believing it warded off evil. You've heard of amber in Baghdad, ground into medicine, or in Chang'an, burned as incense. Its journey mirrors your own a path of endurance, connecting your small village to the palaces of empires. In Constantinople, amber's value shines. You've seen it in the Hagia Sophia, set into reliquaries that glow under candlelight. Revered as a divine gift, nobles wear amber beads, their warmth said to heal ailments, while jewelers carve it into intricate shapes for the emperor's court. Your fly piece is a marvel, its trapped insect, a curiosity that could grace a patriarch's altar, but the market is a maze of risks. You've heard of traders cheated by false weights or outbid by wealthier merchants. The Venetian, a sharp-tongued man with a purse of gold, offers a higher price, but demands you sail with him to Venice, a journey you're not sure you can survive. The apprentice, loyal to a Byzantine master, promises a safer deal, but less coin. You reflect on the amber road's cost. The gatherers back home, their hands scarred from cold sand, risk their lives for scraps. The boatmen who rowed you down the Dnieper, the porters who carried your sack, they see little of the wealth that flows to Constantinople's elite. You think of a gatherer named Eirik, who drowned chasing amber in a storm, his widow left to beg. Your own family waits in Prussia, hoping your journey brings enough to buy seed or repair their hut. The Silk Road, for all its glory, is built on such lives. Small, unseen, resilient, you've carried their hopes with your amber, each step a testament to survival. The apprentice presses for a decision. You weigh the options. Sell now and return home with modest wealth, or risk the Venetian's offer and a longer journey. The tax has already cut into your savings, and Constantinople's markets are fickle tomorrow. A flood of amber could lower prices. You think of the fly, its wings caught in time, a symbol of the amber road's strange power. It's traveled farther than you ever will, from ancient pines to this moment, its story entwined with yours. You choose the apprentice's offer, handing over the amber, its warmth lingering in your palm. The coins he gives you clink softly, a promise of a better life, though the Venetian's gaze lingers, hinting at paths not taken. As you leave the hippodrome, the city's noise fades, and you walk toward the port, coins sewn into your tunic. Amber's legacy stretches beyond this moment. It fueled trade routes, built churches, and bound distant lands, from Baltic shores to Tang palaces. Today, amber still captivates, mined with machines, but carrying the same ancient glow. Its story, like yours, is one of quiet endurance, ordinary people risking all for a stone that holds time itself, shaping history with every trade. The sun sets over Constantinople, its domes glowing like amber in the dusk. You board a ship for home, the sea stretching before you. Will the coins in your tunic be enough, or will the amber road call you back? Its mysteries too potent to resist. The question fades with the tide, the city blurring into the horizon, soft and golden as the resin you carried. Picture yourself in the 8th century, in a bustling quarter of Samarkand. The year is 780 CE. The city is a crossroads of the Silk Road, its markets alive with Sogdian traders, Chinese silk merchants, and Arab scribes. You're in a workshop, surrounded by wooden frames and vats of pulpy water, crafting paper from mulberry bark and hemp rags. The process is laborious. You strip the bark, boil it to a mush, and beat it into a fine pulp before spreading it thin to dry. Each sheet, smooth and pale, is a marvel in a world still bound to parchment and papyrus. You've seen traders handle your paper with care, knowing it will carry contracts, poems, or holy texts to Baghdad, Chang'an, or even distant Cordoba. Paper, though humble, is a revolution. You've heard tales of its origins, brought to Samarkand by Chinese prisoners after the Battle of Talas in 751 CE. They taught your city's craftsmen their secrets, and now your workshop thrives. Unlike parchment, which requires animal hides and weeks of scraping, or papyrus, limited to Egypt's reeds, paper is cheap and versatile. You can make hundreds of sheets in a day, enough to fill a merchant's pack. But the work is grueling. Your arms ache from pounding pulp, and the vat's damp heat leaves you dizzy. A single mistake, too much water, a torn sheet can ruin a batch, and you've seen apprentices beaten for less. Your life is tied to this craft. You live in a mud brick house near Samarkand's walls. Your meals, barley porridge or flatbread, sometimes flavored with cumin from the market. Your family depends on the coins you earn, though most go to the workshop's owner, a wealthy Sogdian who trades your paper for silk or silver. You've learned to be precise, cutting sheets to uniform sizes for scribes who demand perfection. You've also learned the risks. A fire last year destroyed a rival workshop, killing 2 workers and their stock. You keep buckets of sand nearby, but the fear lingers. The Silk Road's hunger for paper makes your work vital, but it also makes you a target for thieves who know its value. Paper's journey begins in your hands, but it stretches far beyond. You've seen merchants load your sheets onto camels, bound for Baghdad's House of Wisdom, where scholars translate Greek texts into Arabic. In Chang'an, Tang bureaucrats use paper for tax records, their brushes gliding over your work. You've even heard of paper reaching the Umayyad courts in Spain, where poets write verses on it. Each sheet carries knowledge, faith, or commerce, connecting empires in ways stone tablets or scrolls never could. You've never left Samarkand, but your paper travels to places you can only imagine, its lightness belying its power. The trade isn't without its challenges. You've heard of caravans lost to bandits in the mountains, their paper scattered or burned. In Samarkand's markets, you've seen traders haggle fiercely, some claiming your paper is too thin or prone to tearing. You've learned to defend your craft, showing how it holds ink without smudging. But the criticism stings. You've also faced shortages. Mulberry trees are scarce some years, and hemp rags are fought over by rival workshops. The Abbasid caliphs, eager for paper to fuel their growing bureaucracy, have started taxing its trade, cutting into your owner's profits and, by extension, your own. Let's pause in Samarkand's market, where you're delivering a stack of paper to a merchant bound for Baghdad. The air is thick with the scents of saffron and leather, and the crowd hums with languages Sogdian, Arabic, Persian. Your paper, neatly bundled, draws the merchant's eye. He tests a sheet, rubbing it between his fingers, and offers a price enough to buy a new cloak for your wife. But he warns of bandits on the road and a new tax in Baghdad that could raise costs. You've poured your life into these sheets, each one a piece of your labor, but their journey is just beginning. What awaits them in the caliph's court? And how will this fragile commodity shape the world beyond your workshop's walls? You're swaying on the back of a camel. The year is 780 CE, and the desert sun beats down on the road from Samarkand to Baghdad. The air is dry, carrying the faint scent of dust and the creak of leather packs. You're no longer the papermaker toiling in a Samarkand workshop. Now you're a merchant's apprentice, entrusted with a load of paper, hundreds of sheets, each crafted from mulberry pulp, carefully stacked and wrapped in cloth. The Silk Road stretches ahead, a ribbon of risk and promise, leading to the Abbasid capital, where your paper will feed the hungry minds of scholars and scribes. Your hands, still stained with ink from helping in the workshop, grip the reins tightly. The load is light compared to salt or amber, but its value is immense, and a single misstep could ruin you. Bandits, storms, or a careless tear might turn your fortune to dust. The journey began in Samarkand's bustling market, where you watched your master, a Sogdian merchant named Bahram, barter for your paper. He inspected each sheet, holding it to the light to check its smoothness. Before paying the workshop owner in silver dirhams, you helped load the paper onto camels, each bundle tied with hemp rope to withstand the road's jolts. The caravan, a line of 15 beasts, set out at dawn, joining a stream of toters carrying silk, saffron, and glass. You've learned to ride, though your thighs ache from the camel's sway, and to watch for signs of danger, hoof prints in the sand, a glint of steel in the hills. The road to Baghdad is long, cutting through mountains and deserts, and you've heard tales of caravans lost to raids or thirst. Paper's value is in its power to carry knowledge. In Samarkand, you saw scribes use it for contracts, their pens scratching out deals that bound merchants across empires. You've heard of its role in Baghdad's House of Wisdom, where scholars copy Aristotle and Galen, their translations spreading Greek thought through the Islamic world. In Chang'an, Tang officials record taxes on paper, their archives growing with every shipment. You've even heard whispers of paper reaching Cordoba, where Umayyad poets write love songs on sheets like yours. Each piece you carry is a vessel for ideas, lighter than parchment, but heavier with meaning. You feel a quiet pride, knowing your workshop's labor fuels this exchange, though you've never seen the halls where your paper will rest. The road is unforgiving. Near Bukhara, a sandstorm forced the caravan to halt, the wind tearing at your cloak as you shielded the paper with your body. One bundle got wet, its edges curling, and Bahram cursed, docking your pay for the loss. You've learned to wrap the paper in oiled cloth, checking it nightly to ensure it stays dry. Bandits are a constant threat. You've seen their tracks, and one night, you woke to shouts as guards drove off a raiding party. The caravan lost a camel to an arrow, its load of spices abandoned. Your paper, though, remains safe, its fragility making you vigilant. You've taken to sleeping beside it, your dagger close, its blade a cold comfort in the dark. Life on the road is a study in survival. You eat flatbread and dried dates, bartered from nomads at oases, and drink sparingly from a water skin that never feels full. You've learned the caravan's rhythms rising before dawn, packing by starlight, and listening to the driver's stories of distant cities. One driver, a grizzled man named Yusuf, told you of Baghdad's markets, where paper is sold by weight, its price rising with demand. He warned of taxes imposed by the caliph to fund wars that could cut into profits. You've seen Bahram's ledgers, the numbers tight as the Abbasids tighten their grip on trade. The thought of losing half your earnings to taxes gnaws at you, a reminder of how little control you have. The paper trade's impact ripples beyond your caravan. In Samarkand, workshops like yours employ dozens pulpers, pressers, cutters, each dependent on the Silk Road's flow. You think of your brother, still in the workshop, his hands raw from boiling bark. His labor, like yours, is invisible to the scholars who write on your paper, their minds filled with philosophy, while yours wrestle with survival. You've met other apprentices, their faces etched with fatigue, who dream of owning a workshop or a camel of their own. But the trade's wealth flows upward to merchants like Bahram, who dine on lamb while you chew stale bread. As you near Baghdad, the landscape shifts. Oases give way to palm groves, and the Tigris River glints in the distance. You pass villages where children stare at your caravan, their eyes wide at the sight of so many camels. You wonder what your paper will become: a scholar's treatise, a merchant's contract, or a caliph's decree. Its journey has bound you to a larger world, one of ideas and empires, but it's also bound you to risk. You've heard rumors of a new paper workshop in Baghdad, built to rival Samarkand's, which could lower prices and threaten your trade. Bahram dismisses the talk, but you see worry in his eyes. Let's pause at a caravanserai on the outskirts of Baghdad, where the caravan rests before entering the city. The stone walls offer shelter, and you sit by a fire, checking your paper for damage. A merchant from Damascus, bound for Chang'an, shares your fire and speaks of paper's spread, how it's changing the way knowledge is stored. From mosques to monasteries, you feel the weight of your load, not just in the bundles, but in the choices ahead. Will Baghdad's markets reward your journey? Or will taxes and competition steal your hopes? Or standing in the heart of Baghdad's Grand Souking, the year is 780 CE, and the air buzzes with the clamor of commerce vendors shouting, donkeys braying, and the rustle of your paper as you present it to a scribe from the House of Wisdom. You're a merchant's apprentice, your cloak dusty from the long journey from Samarkand, your bundles of paper carefully unwrapped to reveal their smooth, pale surfaces. The Silk Road has brought you here, to the Abbasid capital, where your paper could fuel the minds of scholars or line the ledgers of the caliph's court. Your master, Bahram, watches closely, his eyes sharp as the scribe tests a sheet with a reed pen. The stakes are high. A good sale could secure your future, but a new tax and whispers of rival workshops threaten your hopes. The weight of the paper, light as it is, carries the burden of your journey and the dreams of those back home. The final stretch from the caravanserai to Baghdad tested your resolve. The road followed the Tigris, its banks lined with date palms, but bandits shadowed the caravan, their tracks fresh in the mud. You guarded the paper at night, sleeping beside the bundles, your dagger drawn. One bundle was damaged by rain, its edges frayed, and Bahram's scowl promised a cut in your pay. In Baghdad's port, officials weighed your load, their tax a third of the paper's value, biting deep into your earnings. You watched as they scribbled on paper like yours, recording the caliph's wealth, a bitter reminder of how your labor serves those above you. Now, in the souk, you face the scribe, who offers a price that could buy a camel or send coins to your family in Samarkand. But a rival merchant, with paper from a new Baghdad workshop, lurks nearby, his prices lower. Your journey began in a Samarkand workshop, where you pounded mulberry pulp into sheets, your hands raw from the labor. Each sheet was a small miracle, cheaper than parchment, lighter than papyrus, and hungry for ink. From there, you carried it across deserts and mountains, dodging sandstorms and bandits, your life tied to its fragile survival. In Baghdad, paper's power is clear, the house of wisdom, a stone's throw from the Suki, hums with scholars translating Greek texts, their pens gliding over sheets like yours. The caliph's viziers use it for decrees, merchants for contracts, poets for verses. You've seen a scribe copy the Quran on your paper, his strokes reverent, and felt a flicker of pride. Your work, though humble, binds empires, carrying knowledge where stone or hide could not. But the trade's cost is heavy. You think of your brother, still in Samarkand's workshop, his lungs thick from pulp dust. You recall the caravanners who died on the road, their graves unmarked, and the camels that collapsed under their loads. The Silk Road's wealth flows to men like Bahram, who dines on spiced lamb while you eat stale bread. In the SUQ, you've seen other apprentices, their eyes hollow from years of toil, dreaming of freedom they'll never afford. The new workshop in Baghdad, built with Abbasid gold, threatens to flood the market with cheaper paper. You've heard it's coarser, less smooth, but its price undercuts yours, and Bahram's profits are thinning. The tax, imposed to fund a war against rebels, adds another burden, forcing you to sell at a loss or risk returning empty-handed. The scribe's offer is fair 50 dirhams for your best bundle, enough to send home and save for a small shop. But the rival merchant's presence makes you hesitate. His paper, though inferior, is half the price, and the scribe glances his way. You argue your sheet's quality, showing how they hold ink without bleeding. But the scribe shrugs, citing the tax. Bahram, impatient, urges you to accept, but you think of the journey, the storms, the bandits, the nights spent guarding this paper. You recall a story from a caravanserai of a scholar in Chang'an who used Samarkand paper to copy a Buddhist sutra, its words spreading to monasteries across Asia. Your paper, you realize, is more than a commodity. It's a thread in the tapestry of knowledge, woven by hands like yours. You take the scribe's offer, the dirhams heavy in your pouch. As you hand over the paper, you imagine its fate, perhaps a philosopher's treatise, a poet's ode, or a map of the stars. The suku's noise fades as you step away, Bahram counting coins beside you. The rival workshop looms in your mind, a threat to Samarkand's craft. You wonder if you should stay in Baghdad, learning the new methods, or return home, to face an uncertain future. The Silk Road has carried you far, but its currents are shifting, and you're a small figure in its vast flow. Paper's legacy endures beyond your time. It transformed empires, making knowledge accessible. From the Quran to Euclid's geometry, the Silk Road spread it, from Samarkand to Cordoba, laying the foundation for modern libraries and archives. Today, paper is everywhere, its origins in those workshops forgotten, but its story is one of resilience craftsmen, apprentices, merchants like you, whose labor carried ideas across centuries. You leave the SUQ, the tigress glinting under the evening sun, and feel the weight of your pouch. Will it be enough to build a new life, or will the paper trail draw you back, its fragile sheets calling you to the road once more? The question lingers, soft as the rustle of paper. As the city's lights blur into the dusk, imagine yourself in the 9th century, in the heart of Jingdezhen. The year is 850 CE. The city, nestled in China's Jiangxi province, is a hub of craftsmanship, its hills rich with the white clay called kaolin that makes porcelain possible. You're in a workshop, surrounded by wooden molds and vats of creamy slip, shaping bowls and vases on a spinning wheel. Your fingers, slick with clay, move with practiced care, forming vessels so thin they seem to glow. The kilns, massive domes of brick, roar nearby, firing your work at temperatures that melt lesser clays. Each piece takes days mixing kaolin with petunse, shaping, glazing, firing yet one crack, one flaw, and it's worthless. You've seen entire batches shatter, months of labor lost to a kiln's misfire. Porcelain is China's hidden gem, a commodity unlike any other on the Silk Road. Its translucence and strength set it apart from the coarse pottery of other lands. You've heard traders whisper of its value in Chang'an, where Tang emperors dined from porcelain bowls, or in Baghdad, where caliphs marvel at its delicate chime when struck. Your workshop produces cups, plates, and jars, some painted with cobalt blue dragons, others left pure white. Each piece is a marvel, but the labor is brutal. You work from dawn to dusk, your back aching, your hands blistered from handling hot clay. The kiln's heat leaves you gasping, and you've seen potters collapse, their lungs scarred from years of smoke. Your life is bound to this craft. You live in a thatched house near the kilns, your meals rice and pickled vegetables, sometimes flavored with soy from the market. Your family depends on the coins you earn, though most go to the workshop's overseer, a stern man who sells your porcelain to merchants bound for the Silk Road. The Tang Dynasty guards porcelain's secrets, and you've heard of spies Persians, Arabs trying to learn the recipe for kaolin and petunse. Guards patrol Jingdezhen's workshops, and you've been warned never to speak of your methods. A potter in a neighboring yard was executed last year, accused of selling secrets to a Sogdian trader. The fear lingers, a shadow over your work. Porcelain's journey begins in your hands, but its path is vast. Merchants carry your bowls west to Samarkand, where they're traded for horses, or south to Guangzhou, where ships sail them across the Indian Ocean. You've never seen these places, but you've met traders who speak of them men with sun-creased faces, their camels laden with silk or spices. They tell of porcelain reaching Abbasid palaces, where it's prized over silver, or Byzantine churches, where it holds holy relics. Its fragility makes it a risky trade, Each piece must be packed in straw, cushioned against the road's jolts. You've heard of caravans lost to bandits, their porcelain smashed in the desert, a fortune in shards. The trade sustains Jingdezhen, employing hundreds miners who dig kaolin, woodcutters who fuel the kilns, painters who trace delicate patterns. A bad firing can ruin a workshop, and floods in the hills can bury clay deposits. You've seen families starve when kilns fail, their savings spent on broken pots. The Tang court taxes porcelain heavily, claiming it funds roads and armies. But you see little of that wealth. Your coins buy rice and cloth, with nothing left for dreams of leaving the kilns. Yet you take pride in your craft, knowing your bowls grace emperors' tables, their beauty born from your sweat. Let's pause in Guangzhou's port, where you're now a packer, wrapping porcelain for a ship bound for Basra. The docks are alive with activity, sailors hauling silk, merchants counting coins, the air thick with salt and fish. Your vases, fresh from Jingdezhen's kilns, are nestled in straw, each one a gamble against the sea's wrath. You've paid a fee to join this voyage, hoping to earn enough to buy a kiln of your own. But the captain warns of pirates and storms, and rumors swirl of a new tax in Basra that could cut profits. Your porcelain, so perfect in the kiln, now faces an uncertain fate. What awaits it in distant courts? And what secrets does this fragile treasure hold for those who carry it? You're swaying on a creaking junk, slicing through the South China Sea. The year is 850 CE, and the horizon shimmers with the promise of distant ports. The air is heavy with salt, and the faint scent of straw-packed porcelain. Your hands rough from securing Jingdezhen's delicate vases below deck. You're a packer turned merchant's assistant, far from the kilns where you shaped clay, now entrusted with a cargo of porcelain bound for Basra. The Silk Road's maritime arm stretches ahead, a path of waves and peril that could carry your fragile treasures to the Abbasid courts or shatter them in a storm's wrath. Your tunic is damp with spray, and you check the straw bales obsessively, knowing a single crack could ruin months of labor. The sea is as merciless as the desert, and you feel its weight with every pitch of the ship. The journey began in Guangzhou's chaotic port, where you loaded porcelain alongside silk and tea. The vases, their white surfaces painted with cobalt dragons, were wrapped with care, each nestled in straw to survive the voyage. You paid a steep fee to the ship's captain, a weathered Cantonese man who promised a swift crossing to Malacca, then on to Basra. The cost ate into your savings, but the potential profit a single vase could fetch enough silver to buy a kiln kept you aboard. The crew, a mix of Chinese and Malay sailors, eye the porcelain with curiosity, knowing its value in foreign markets. You've heard their tales of pirates off Sumatra, their daggers sharp as their greed, and storms that swallow ships whole. You sleep lightly, your hand on a knife, the porcelain's safety. Your only concern, porcelain's allure lies in its perfection. Back in Jingdezhen, you shaped it from kaolin and patunce, firing it in kilns that burned hotter than any forge. Its translucence, its chime when struck, made it a marvel, unlike the coarse pottery of other lands. You've heard traders speak of its worth in Basra, where Abbasid nobles prize it over gold, or in Constantinople, where it graces imperial tables. The Tang dynasty guards its secrets fiercely, and you've been warned never to speak of the clay's mix. In Guangzhou, You saw a merchant flogged for whispering about pétuns to an Arab trader, a reminder of the empire's vigilance. Your porcelain, packed in the hold, is a secret as much as a commodity. Its formula, a mystery that drives its price. The sea route is a vital thread of the Silk Road, faster than overland paths, but no less deadly. You've sailed past coral reefs that tear hulls and weathered squalls that drenched your cargo. One night, a wave crashed over the deck, soaking a bale of straw. You spent hours drying it, praying the vases inside were intact. They were, but the scare lingers. You've lost another goods. A jar cracked in Malacca when a porter dropped it, its shards tossed into the sea. You've learned to cushion each piece with extra straw, to check ropes daily, and to bribe sailors for extra care. The crew respects your diligence, but mocks your worry, calling you the porcelain nursemaid. You smile, but their jests sting, knowing your future rides on these fragile vessels. Life at sea is a grind. You eat rice and dried fish, your mouth salty from the sea air, and sleep in a cramped corner of the hold. The porcelain bales your pillow. You've learned the ship's rhythms, sails adjusted at dawn, stars guiding the night. The captain speaks of Basra's markets, where porcelain is traded for frankincense or glass, and of the Abbasid caliph's court, where a single bowl might grace a banquet. You dream of such a sail, enough to return to Jingdezhen as a master potter, not a hired hand, but the risks are ever present. Pirates attacked a ship last month, looting its cargo and leaving the crew adrift. You've heard of porcelain sinking to the ocean floor, its beauty lost to the deep. The trade's broader impact unfolds in ports like Malacca, where you stopped to trade. Merchants from India, Persia, and Ethiopia crowded the docks, their ships laden with spices and ivory. Your porcelain, though a small part of the cargo, drew gasps its whiteness, a stark contrast to clay pots. You've seen how it fuels the Silk Road's economy, funding ships and ports, connecting Jingdezhen to Baghdad. But it also binds men like you to its dangers. You think of the potters back home, their hands burned from kilns, and the miners who dig kaolin, their lungs choked with dust. Your own family, in a thatched hut, waits for the coins you'll send, hoping for a better life. The trade's wealth flows to merchants and officials, while you and the pot stick together. Please, as the terse scrape by, your lives shaped by the fragile vessels you craft. The Silk Road's promise of wealth is real, but it's a distant dream for those at its edges, like you, who carry the weight of its risks without reaping its full rewards. The journey's toll is etched into your body. Your hands are calloused from tying ropes, your eyes gritty from salt spray. You've grown lean on meager rations, saving every coin for the future you hope to build. In Malacca, you met a potter's widow, her husband killed in a kiln fire, now begging at the docks. Her story haunts you, a reminder of the trade's human cost. The porcelain in your hold, so prized in distant courts, comes from such sacrifices, miners buried in landslides, sailors lost to storms, potters like you who gave their health to the kilns. Yet its beauty drives the trade, each vase a testament to Jingdezhen's skill and China's guarded secrets. As you approach Basra, the sea grows calmer, the air thick with the scent of marsh and date palms. The port looms, its minarets piercing the haze, a gateway to the Abbasid world. You've heard of Basra's markets, where porcelain is traded for pearls or saffron, and of the caliph's palace, where your vases might grace a vizier's table, but rumors of a new tax, imposed to fund a campaign against rebels, worry you. The captain grumbles about it, saying it could take half your profits. You've already paid dearly silver in Guangzhou, bribes in Malacca, and another loss could mean returning to Jingdezhen with nothing but debt. You check the porcelain again, running your fingers over the straw, praying each piece is whole. The ship docks in Basra, and you join a caravan bound for Baghdad, the final leg of your journey. The overland route is shorter, but no safer bandits haunt the palm-lined trails, and the desert heat could crack your vases if not packed tightly. You've hired a porter, a young man named Ali, to help carry the load, his back strong, but his eyes wary. He tells you of a caravan attacked last month, its porcelain smashed in a raid. You've taken precautions, wrapping each vase in extra straw and padding the camel's baskets with wool. But the fear of loss lingers. Your future rides on these fragile pieces, and you wonder if they'll reach Baghdad intact, or if the Silk Road will claim them as it has so many others. Let's pause in a caravanserai outside Basra, where you rest before the final push to Baghdad. The stone courtyard is alive with traders, Persians with silk, Arabs with incense, each eyeing your porcelain with curiosity. You sit by a fire, Ali beside you, and share a meal of flatbread and lentils. A merchant from Damascus, bound for Constantinople, speaks of porcelain's fame, how it's prized in Byzantine churches for its purity. He warns of the tax in Baghdad and of rival potters in Persia trying to mimic China's craft. Though their wares are coarser, you feel the weight of your cargo, not just in the bales, but in the choices ahead. Will Baghdad's markets reward your journey, or will taxes and competition shatter your dreams like a cracked vase? You're standing in the vibrant Isuku of Baghdad. The year is 850 CE, and the air thrums with the pulse of 1,000 trades merchants haggling, camels snorting, the faint chime of porcelain as you unwrap a vase for a vizier's steward. You're a merchant's assistant, your hands still rough from packing straw in Basra, your heart pounding as you present Jingdezhen's delicate wares in the Abbasid capital. The Silk Road has carried you from China's kilns, across stormy seas and bandit-haunted trails, to this moment where your porcelain could secure a fortune or break under the weight of taxes and competition. The steward, his robe heavy with embroidery, eyes your vase, its cobalt dragon glinting in the sun. Your journey's end is here, but the puzzle of porcelain, its fragile beauty and guarded secrets, hangs in the balance, as does your future. The final leg from Basra was a gauntlet. You traveled with a caravan of 20 camels, your porcelain packed in wool-lined baskets to survive the desert's jolts. The Tigris gleamed beside you, but danger loomed. Bandits struck a nearby caravan, leaving shattered pottery in the dust. You and Ali, your porter, took turns guarding the load at night, your dagger sharp against thieves. In Baghdad's port, officials imposed the rumored tax, claiming a third of your cargo's value. You watched, helpless, as they took 2 vases, their white glaze catching the light as they vanished into the caliph's stores. Now, in the souk, you face the steward, who offers 60 dinars for a single vase enough to buy a kiln in Jingdezhen, but warns of a rival merchant with cheaper Persian-made pottery nearby. Your journey began in Jingdezhen's sweltering kilns, where you shaped kaolin into vessels so thin they seemed to glow. Each piece was a risk, prone to cracking in the fire, its creation a secret the Tang dynasty guarded with blood. From Guangzhou's docks to Basra's marshes, you carried these treasures, losing a jar to a porter's stumble and another to a storm's damp. The sea and desert took their toll. Your body is lean from sparse meals, your eyes red from sleepless nights. You think of the potters back home, their lungs scarred by kiln smoke, and the miners who died digging clay, their sacrifices woven into every vase. Your family, in a thatched hut, waits for the coins you'll send, hoping for a better life. In Baghdad, porcelain's power is undeniable. You've seen it in the caliph's palace, where bowls grace banquet tables, their chime a mark of wealth. Scribes use it to hold ink, their pens scratching decrees that shape empires. You've heard of porcelain in Constantinople, set in church altars, or in Cordoba, where poets sip from delicate cups. Its journey along the Silk Road has fueled ports and markets, from Guangzhou to Basra, binding distant lands with its beauty. But its fragility haunts you. You've seen vases shatter in the Suq, dropped by careless hands, and heard of caravans lost to raids, their porcelain reduced to shards. Each piece you've brought is a miracle of survival, a testament to your care in China's craft. The steward's offer is tempting, but the rival merchant's presence, his pottery coarse but cheap, makes you pause. You show the steward your vase's translucence, holding it to the light, and he nods, impressed. But he mentions the tax and rumors of Persian potters learning to mimic porcelain, their wares flooding the market. You think of Jingdezhen, where workshops depend on this trade, and the spies who risk death to steal its secrets. Your master, the merchant who hired you, urges you to sell, his voice sharp with worry about falling prices. You recall a story from Basra of a captain who sold a porcelain jar to a Byzantine envoy, its dragon design now adorning a church. Your vases, you realize, carry more than clay. They carry culture, power, and the dreams of those who made them. You accept the steward's offer, the dinars heavy in your pouch, enough to send home and start a small workshop. As you hand over the vase, you imagine its fate, a caliph's feast, a scholar's desk, or a gift to a distant king. The rival merchant glares, his pottery unsold, but you know the victory is fleeting. Persian workshops are growing, and taxes tighten like a noose. You wonder if you should stay in Baghdad, learning new markets, or return to Jingdezhen to face a changing trade. The Silk Road has carried you far, its currents lifting and breaking men like you who risk all for fragile treasures. Porcelain's legacy endures beyond your time. It shaped the Silk Road, spreading China's craft to the world. Its secrets eventually unraveled by imitators. Today, porcelain is common, but its story began with potters, packers, and assistants like you, whose labor bridged empires. The Silk Road's web, woven with such fragile threads, laid the foundation for global trade, carrying not just goods, but ideas. You leave the Suq, the tigress glinting under a fading sun, the coins in your pouch. A quiet promise. Will they build a new life, or will the porcelain puzzle call you back to the kilns, its secrets too potent to leave behind? The question drifts, soft as clay dust, as Baghdad's lights blur into the evening, a city of wonders built on fragile dreams. This concludes the 6th story of the strange commodities on the medieval Silk Road. The series has explored the intricate journeys of saffron, salt, parrots, amber, paper, and porcelain, each revealing the resilience and unseen labor behind the Silk Road's trade. Would you like me to proceed with a 7th story, or would you prefer to conclude the series with the final 300-word ending as specified in the instructions? If you'd like a 7th story, please suggest a title or commodity, or I can propose one, such as the incense path, frankincense's sacred trade. Alternatively, I can provide the series closing now. Let me know your preference.